Hi guys! In this episode of Plumbing's Thoughts On, I'm gonna be sharing my thoughts on the 7th episode of the 11th and final season of one of my favorite shows ever, The Walking Dead. And yeah, before we get into it, I do need to let you know a little bit about the context surrounding how I watched this episode in comparison to other things in the Walking Dead universe, because as some of you may know, I've been watching Tales of the Walking Dead, and I've reviewed Tales of the Walking Dead. By the time you see this video, all the reviews would be up. But at the point at which I am recording this video, I'm actually yet to see the second half of the first season of Tales of the Walking Dead. I've only seen up to the 3rd episode. And the reason why I haven't seen the other episodes is just because it wasn't entertaining enough, I guess. I just wasn't excited enough to really keep watching. But there are some interesting things that I want to see about those episodes, because I've heard some things people have said about them. But I was really excited to get into The Walking Dead. And at the point in time at which I'm recording this video again, I've seen up to episode 19. I've seen the variant episode. So I'm sorry if there are some spoilers that I might mention for episode 18 and episode 19, just because, especially for 17 and 18, they are very kind of mixed in my head, because I watched them one after the other, because that's how they were released. So I'm sorry if there's some spoilers for the next 2 episodes in this review. But yeah, overall, I don't know, just like for a lot of this season in general, I feel like this episode wasn't necessarily bad, it just didn't really live up to my expectations. And I don't know if it's necessarily fair to have the expectations that every single episode of this final season of The Walking Dead needed to be like a masterpiece or whatever. But I definitely expected that the final season would feel more heavy, that it would feel more impactful. Like, I guess kind of what I was looking for in this final season was something along the lines of what season 9 was, where every single scene was oozing with character, every single scene felt like it mattered. And in that season as well, every single episode weekly was entertaining. Whereas so far, season 11 in general, for every single bit that we've had, like every single part of it, it's not really been exciting to watch week to week. That's why I'm kind of reserving my final judgment of my opinion on this final season for when I sit down and react to the whole show on the channel in the future, like a couple of years from now, once I've kind of forgotten some things about it, so it could be more interesting to rewatch it. But yeah, week to week just hasn't really been exciting. And this episode, just like every single episode in this season so far, it's just been okay at the end of the day. Because it's not that it's bad. We had decent amount of cool moments. We had some pretty cool action, some pretty cool character interactions. But overall, it just had this off feeling to it that I can't really describe. I don't know if it's the camera being so clear because they're shooting on digital and not on film, but yeah, I don't know, it just hasn't hit. It just has felt weird, even when it works. But it definitely was kind of like an action-packed episode, so I did enjoy it in that regard. I did like how in the beginning of the episode, we had the recap with Judith. Like, that kind of thing was pretty cool. I really enjoyed that. Because we, in general, have had the recap, I think, for quite a few episodes. I don't know if we had that shit for season 11, but we definitely had it in the 10C episode, so I guess that's just a different take on that. And it was pretty cool. I really liked the addition to the team, like, and visually. It does at first kind of feel a little weird that we're seeing like the hilltop and Alexandria like that, because for the most part that whole thing is digital. Like, it's actually computer generated art, but for Hilltop and Alexandria, the shots that we see of them in the intro, they're actual shots that they've recorded with a drone of those places. So it kind of clashes a little bit, but it also kind of harkens back to the old intro that The Walking Dead had, where it was like actual things that we see, like pictures and locations and the like. So it's kind of like a mix of the two, and I do kind of like it. I do like the musical addition to the theme that they have in it, although I don't like that it was pointed out to me that it was the sound or theme of the Miltons that we heard in the 16th episode when the flags were falling on the different communities that we have, like Hilltop and Alexandria. It's that sound, that kind of alarm sound that we had there that plays in the theme. I liked it more when I didn't know that it was that same sound, because it felt, before I found out, it felt like it fit with the theme, and now it feels like it's a little shoved in, but overall I do like it. Some people have pointed out that the first scene that we see in the episode with Daryl fighting the walkers kind of looks like that those walkers could possibly be variants, because they are kind of a little too fast, and the way they reach feels like they might be, because it feels kind of unusual, because usually the walkers, I feel like, don't just like reach like that. And especially after watching episode 19, I am leaning towards those walkers potentially being variants. Maybe not as strong as the variant in that episode, but I think there could have been variants there, but yeah, I don't know. I just really liked that sequence with the walkers there. Then I obviously really liked the F-bomb that Negan dropped. That was really cool. It kind of makes it a little weird how we haven't really heard F-bombs throughout the rest of the show, now that they're kind of dropping them like one per episode, but I did enjoy it. Enjoy hearing that. And talking about Negan, I really like the parallel that we had with him and Annie at the Commonwealth, seeing the baby, and that being the exact same shot as Maggie and Glenn back in like season 6. I think it's probably, if you count up the episode, it's very close to the halfway point, probably. That episode with Maggie and Glenn, and this episode with Negan and Annie. It's probably at the halfway point, so that's an even better parallel there. Because we've had Negan on the show for as long as we had Glenn, pretty much, I think. If not even more. But yeah, that was a really nice parallel over there. And yeah, I really like the action with Dario and the and him attacking Lance. That was pretty cool. Like the action, I always wondered what people meant when they said that the action in like season 8 of the show wasn't entertaining. And it's only been since that one episode where the Commonwealth soldiers were almost going to kill Aaron, Darrow, and Gabriel that I realized what people meant about the action and the shooting not really being well choreographed. Because in this sequence with Darrow shooting at Lance, and in that sequence with all three of them against the Commonwealth soldiers, I don't know, it does actually have more of a punch, and it's far more entertaining than some of the action sequences that we had in season 8. Like, I kind of get it now. It feels like it's more punchy than that. And a little bit more thought through. That was pretty cool. I like that Daryl and Negan were basically working together there. That is always just so cool to see, and how much Negan has been accepted as part of the group at this point. Especially when they talk about saving our group, and Negan talks to Mercer about we have people here to protect, as if he is part of the group. And when he talks to Carol later on in the Commonwealth, when he talks about the fact that they're probably going to use the kids to threaten our group, as if he is part of the group. Like, that is really cool how much he has been kind of accepted. It's wild to think about, and it's also funny to see, to read people's reactions, like people who haven't seen the show in a while, read the reactions to Negan doing these things. Because it's, like, you kind of forget about it after, like, essentially going through the boiled frog approach as a viewer of the show, you kind of forget some of the shit that Negan put our group through. And you kind of forget the perspective that you might have had back then. So it's kind of really cool to see people's reactions to this shit who haven't seen it. Because, like, back when Negan was introduced in, like, season 7, I fucking hated his guts, man. I fucking hated his guts, and now I fucking love him. He's, like, one of the best characters of this show. So, yeah, I think, weirdly enough, that's kind of all I have to say about this episode. Like, it was an entertaining episode. Oh, I guess there's that one scene between Daryl and Maggie where they bring up Glenn and how Maggie doesn't have to apologize to Daryl, or she shouldn't feel sorry for him having to kill Leah, or at least not to him, because I guess he still kind of feels responsible for Glenn's death. I kind of really like that scene there, and it really fucking boggles my mind that that scene was an addition that Norman Reedus asked for, or at least like came up with. Like, how could you not have that kind of scene in the final season? Like, it boggles my mind. Like, sometimes some of the choices really fucking... I try not to judge story choices. Because I also, as an amateur writer myself, I don't like some of my choices being judged just because I decided to go in this direction, while the viewers, or readers in my case, wanted the story to go in this different direction. So I try not to judge that shit, but goddamn, some choices in this season like that really boggles my mind. How could you not bring up Glenn in a situation like that, but then have Negan in the first episode bring up Glenn when talking to Megan about how he put him down like a dog? Like, why would you do that? Why would you have the character use his name in an infuriating manner, but not have the characters use him in a heartfelt manner? It just really confuses the hell out of me. Especially because we have actually had a little bit of an increase. I feel like especially in these past episodes, like episode 17, 18, 19, we've had an increase of mentioning of older characters, so I do think like it makes sense to include that, you know? But yeah, there's not much other than this to really talk about in regards to this episode. Again, because I'm confusing a little bit of episode 17 with episode 18. But yeah, that's why it just kind of feels weird, this season and these episodes. There's good stuff. There's definitely good, entertaining moments in these episodes. But at the same time, the whole vibe of the episodes, like the complete package, is just not quite there. And yeah, I guess we're just gonna go through the notes, and maybe that's gonna joggle my memory a little bit about what happened in this episode. And pretty much, if there was anything that I didn't bring up in this episode review, I'll just mention it for episode 18, even if it happened in episode 17, just because I kind of mixed them up a little bit, like I said. So yeah, the first thing I've written is another F-bomb. Wish they did it more. And yeah, now that they've started doing it, I do wish they used to did it more. Especially because they should have been able to use F-bombs since season 3 of Fear, which means I think either season 8 of the main show or season 9 should have been the first season in which they started using the F-bomb more. Because back in like season 3 of Fear, I think it was said in an interview or something that the Walking Dead shows at the time were allowed 2 F-bombs per season, and Fear the Walking Dead used theirs towards the end of it to great success, and I really, really like that. Then in season 9 of the main show, we had Daryl say fuck when he was in the pit with Rick, but they didn't really use it anymore after that, I feel like. I don't remember, at least. And maybe just because I'm so used to that word, maybe I just didn't notice it, but who knows. But it's cool that they are using it more. The next thing I've written is Whisperer Negan. Cool. And yeah, no matter how many times I see it, it's just such a cool technique, using the Whisperer masks to hide amongst the walkers, you know? It's just so cool. And it's just such a cool thing to show kind of character development. And show it as And it's such a cool thing to show, as a way to show that the history and the challenges that our characters have went through matter, because now that they've defeated the Whisperers, they know their technique and they can use it to their own advantage. And that's really, really cool. It's just so cool whenever our group does it, you know? It's such a cool technique. Next thing I've written is expected more changes, but still pretty cool. Kind of reminiscent of the old intro. Also, new title card. So that's my thoughts, I guess, on the opening. Seeing how much it was kind of hyped up that they kind of changed it and made it longer and everything, I thought there were going to be more substantial changes, but for the most part, most of the changes are subtle, and the biggest changes are just the addition of a shot of the, I think the windmill, a different shot of it, and then a shot of Hilltop and Alexandria, which I'm okay with, like I said earlier. It works. Honestly, only because the old intro kind of had that kind of style already, with like actual locations and actual things that they were using for the shots of it, whereas the new intro is far more computer generated, you know. But it works. Next thing I've written is that Negan Mercer interaction was pretty cool, and again, this is another moment which kind of shows my weird feelings about this episode, because I was really excited about that interaction due to the trailer and how it was shown in the trailer. And it's also a reason why I try not to really check out trailers of shit, because they kind of give you the coolest moments, and that kind of brings your hype for when those moments actually happen far lower. Because like after seeing the trailer, I was obviously excited about their interaction. And the interaction was fine, it was entertaining, but it didn't blow me away. And that's kind of disappointing. Like, this season in general has been fine. I think it's probably better than season 10. But it's just been very... like, it's been above the last season, but below my expectations for what I think it should have been. And that's kind of annoying. And that scene, like I said, it was entertaining. I liked it. But I wish it was more, you know? The next thing I've written is, I think that was the first interaction between Negan and Jerry. And again, that was another really funny moment where Jerry noticed that Negan was at the Commonwealth. And seeing Negan at the Commonwealth, that was pretty cool. Especially because he actually wasn't part of the story in the comic book. So that's kind of cool. But to be honest, I feel like his character has changed so much from his comic book persona that it kind of makes sense. Like, you can't even say that this is the same Negan from the comic book at this point, I feel like. At least I don't see it as the same Negan, because I can't really see the comic book Negan, even with the way he developed over time, as being at the Commonwealth. It doesn't really feel like it would have been how they portrayed it in the show, at least. Next thing I've written is, a Glenn mention. And yeah, I already talked about it. There's nothing really much to say in addition to what I've already said. The next thing I've written is, it's definitely an exciting episode, and it was, due to all the action that we had. It was, but there's also some really weird and strangely wasteful scenes in all of these episodes, honestly, but I'm going to talk about it more, I guess, in the other ones. But specifically for this episode, there's that one scene with the Commonwealth soldier trying to turn on the radio and contact the Commonwealth. I don't understand why that scene is so fucking extended. Why do we have to see like 2 minutes of this soldier meddling with the radio and trying to contact somebody, when you could have easily started off the second he's down from the roof and trying to turn on the radio, and then you have sounds happening around, so he gets distracted and killed by Maggie. Like, I don't understand why we had to have that extension, because like, you already have only like 8 episodes left to wrap up a huge storyline, and then kind of potentially build up, like, you have 8 episodes to wrap a huge storyline, wrap the whole fucking show, and potentially set up a bunch of spin-offs. I really don't think you should be wasting scenes in screen time like that, you know? Uh, the next thing I've written is, how did you overturn it? And for a second there, I was wondering what the fuck I was talking about, but I remember there was that whole second half of the episode sequence where Rosita and Mercer were trying to distract a bunch of walkers, and some of the convoy soldiers who were separate drove their car and somehow fucking overturned it, even though it couldn't have even been the walkers because they were far from the car. So how the fuck did you manage to fucking topple a jeep like that? I don't know. That kind of really took me out of that scene. Although it afterwards kind of brought me back into the scene, seeing all the gore when that guy was ripped in half. That was pretty fucking cool. The final thing I've written is kind of a dumb, weirdly confusing ending. And honestly, I don't even know where it ended. Like, let me think for a second. So I think where the episode ended was with the characters in the sewer location and them kind of hiding and catching the Commonwealth soldiers off guard, and then a bunch of Commonwealth soldiers kind of come out of nowhere. I think that's where it ended up. A weird forced cliffhanger, but eh. So overall, my feelings about this episode were that it was okay. It was definitely action-packed, and I enjoyed the action, but it, again, wasn't up to par with what I was expecting the episode was going to be like. So yeah, that's kind of pretty much how I feel about it. And in terms of a rating, because of that, I am kind of going to go with a pretty solid, but less than what I would have liked, 8.1 out of 10. It was a decent episode, and like I said, in the future, whenever I rewatch this show, I probably will enjoy these episodes so much more because I would be binging them. Because The Walking Dead in general has always been a show better binged. Hell, when I got into the show back in Season 6, when Season 6 was happening, which is, Jesus Christ, I've been watching the show for half its run. I obviously binged Season 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, and I loved them. I loved them. I had no issues with it, but then in Season 6, I started to have issues with it because I was watching it weekly. For whatever reason, when you're watching something weekly, you have far more scrutiny towards it. But yeah, overall, decent episode. Still not as good as I would like. I would like it to be. But yeah, what did you guys think about this episode? Comment those down below and let's have a discussion about it. And also, before we end this video, I just want to give a huge shout out to my currently 6 patrons on Patreon. Omari Bridgman, Deadpool, August Dice, Little Uzi, Corby Dead, and newest supporter, Shiro Nyan. Thank you guys for your support, I really appreciate it. It really means a lot to me that you've decided to support me and have continued to support me for such a long time. Hope you continue to enjoy my content and continue to support me going forward. Thank you very much. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like, subscribe. Also, check out the list in the description to my Twitter if you haven't followed me over there, and to my Wattpad, or post my stories, because in addition to doing all these videos on my channel, I'm also a writer. And if you don't enjoy my stories or simply enjoy my videos, you can head over to my Patreon or to my Coffee account, where you can pledge support and help get the channel going, help support me so I can keep writing stories you enjoy. But if you don't want to do it, that's completely fine. You can still help me out in other ways, like liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and especially sharing this video with somebody who you think might enjoy it. And I think that's pretty much it for this video, so hopefully I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye!